How you all going? Welcome back to the channel. This is SCC, and tonight we've made it this week to do the round 20 review. We missed the round 19 review. Very busy with work at the moment, doing some late nights and stuff like that. So haven't really felt too active with doing some posts for YouTube, but I'm back this week. It's only been a 1 week miss. I didn't want to fall off like I did last year and just forget about it altogether. So we're getting on and we're at least getting a review out, and we can talk about some of the teams, things that have happened, and also have a look at how the team lines up. We went up, I think, 700 or so ranks the week before this, and now we've gone down 232 than last week. And I actually thought last week wasn't too bad. We hit the good captain, which was good, but sadly, it looks like we were punished a little bit. So let's jump in the team after the 24-26, and you'll see this is how the team lined up. So we got the Sheasel VC. I thought last week, you know what, Sheasel's been in a pretty good run of form coming up against Geelong. Let's just chuck the VC on him because he had the early game, and yeah, we hit it, which was really nice. I mean, compared to the week before, I'm pretty sure I had like, who was it? It was someone pretty average, because I think I had Sarong and he went like 100 or something lower than the score. Oh no, Sarong had a good score last week. Let's have a look at, it definitely wasn't strong last week, no. Because I was thinking, of course, the week I don't go him, he goes all right. Round 19, who did we go? I think we went early on Martin. So round 19, we went early on Martin VC, which looked all right until the Crows got on top in that last quarter. And then we must have jumped on, it was the Bont, I reckon, the Bont against Geelong. And he ended up just getting a low 100. Oh, no, he had a 122, so it wasn't too bad, but wasn't amazing. I think there was some pretty high scores that week. And yeah, not the best. Well, it wasn't the best week, but we still went up more than we did. If we look at the history, you can see season rank. We went up to 6310, and then we dropped down. So the highest we've got this year is obviously in the 5,000s. We had a lot of momentum coming up through here. Just slow down at around 11, and the buys we kind of cooked. We had, Rankin, who was injured, and then we just relied on rookies who didn't really fire in those buys, which was annoying. But anyway, that's enough of that. So we VC'd last week Sheasel, which was nice. Got that out the way pretty early. And then, yeah, this was how we lined up. We didn't miss get a zero, with Mackay late out, which is obviously, I feel like it was pretty obvious that was concussion. We had McKercher and Dawson both miss. But luckily we had Gorn come back, so Jackson was able to come back onto the field. So, I mean, let's talk about the defence. So Clark actually played better than Ryan, which is nice. Ryan's really dropped off. It looks like the Fremantle game style that we were talking about them maybe changing has possibly been changed, which is a little bit annoying. But yeah, I guess a lot of people have Ryan anyway, and Clark going a bit better, finding a bit more of the ball than what Ryan does by himself. So that's been good for us. Martin just having one of his lower games this week, an absolute flogging. A 95 wasn't too bad. I think the shining light here was Nasai Wanganeen-Malira having that 134. That was really nice. Probably one of the reasons we decided to keep him was this run home. Like this week, they've got Brisbane at Marvel. Feels like they'll get a lot of ball in the back line, a lot of ball for him. Houston was looking pretty good and then just dropped off, which has kind of been the story for him lately. Bont, 109, did his part. Flanders continues his run of hundreds. The man's unstoppable. He is the best scoring midfielder for the Suns, and it looks like staying that way. Goulden, 99, all right. Yeah, so Dacos would have been probably one a lot of people got on for captain if they didn't get Sheasel, so people would have been pretty happy with that against Richmond. Caldwell, 92. Sarong 111, which I think looked like it was going to be a lot better, and then I think Fremantle, or I think he just dropped off a little bit against West Coast. Rosie was pretty stinky, probably lucky to get to a 73 in the end. And then Tom Green just beat the 100. Both Gorn and Grundy failed in a week that I played someone who had English and Jerry, and I think that pretty much lost me the week, the fact that he had Jerry and Jerry went 140 or whatever. Man, Jerry would have to be close to getting that number one ruck spot, wouldn't he? He's been pretty good. What's his season looking like? Yeah, 151, sorry. So that really wrecked me. 3-rounder average of 123, and he's pushing that one. You know, this back end has been very good. 5-rounder 126, like Gorn 104 5-rounder. So still, you know, a bit behind him, and even, but he is in front of Grundy. So if he went Cherry, he's definitely the guy that you should have picked. And I kind of wish I didn't really. I kind of just put him to a side because of North, but he's been pretty good. Last year when I was running the under 400k team, I was thinking I had him in, and then he got injured in like the first game. So what could have been that year with him instead of, I think I had to pivot to like Sammy Draper or Pitnet or whatever. Zorko had a really good game for Brisbane. That was a pretty close one, wasn't it? I think it was. Nope. They just absolutely belted Gold Coast, but he still played pretty well at the back line. Hasn't broken down yet, touch wood, but we do have coverage for that. Jackson, Darcy, I think, got injured, didn't he? Or concussed, maybe. I'm not sure. I know he went off injured, but he came back on, so unsure about that. Heaney had a bit of a down game. I was a bit annoyed Moore didn't go more than 95 because they absolutely obliterated the Crows in the last like half. It seemed like it should have been a good game for him to get score forward. Baker did enough in a week where he was forced to play him, and Dowling was the coverage. I guess most people would have had to field him, so it wasn't all bad. Harry Mackay is pretty annoying. That late pull out, like it just meant that Charlie was like the only main focal point for Carlton, and it was really, really frustrating. Like Port just couldn't defend, and if Mackay played, he actually probably would have scored pretty well because they were pretty shocking in the air. I know they did get on top of them in the end, but like Charlie was just so far in front with his score that really probably just stopped it from being like a 130, 140 instead just being a 118. Like we haven't really got that huge score from Mackay since we got him in. It's been pretty middling. You know, these at the start were pretty good. Charlie's slowly reeled him in. I'd say they're probably pretty even now based on average. Let's have a look at Charlie Gurno. Yeah, so 88.5 compared to 88.7. So they're pretty much the same now. And you know what? Mackay was probably beating him over the past few weeks. It was just that last game that really pushed him over the top. So as far as what we're going to do for this week, we got dead money, obviously. It would be nice to have one more trade, but we do not. So what I'm going to do is press the optimize and see what it comes up with, and it doesn't look too bad. I'd probably want Dawson on field though. Dowling is just a bit useless with that extra emergency. So who do the Crows play this week? Round 21. They are playing Geelong. Doesn't seem like the best Dawson game. But we could loop McKercher into him to see how he goes. Although Richmond seems like it's a paradise game for him, but I'd have to be pretty on it. Who else we got? Melbourne Bulldogs, not really worth doing anything there. And West Coast, Gold Coast. Not anyone worth looping there either. So if I'm going to loop, it's probably McKercher, isn't it? Baker actually has a good game to loop on this week with Reed. So we'll probably do that into Martin, who has Fremantle could actually be all right. But I wouldn't count on it. So, sorry. So I'm going to go with Baker into Reed, looping with Martin. We'll see how that goes. I could do it with No, I can't do it with McKercher at all, actually, because they play each other. So I think that's all right. We'll go with this loop on McKercher. Melbourne play the first game. So I actually can't do a loop there. That's a bit annoying. God damn, Carnan. So how can we do it? We can't. We just can't. Melbourne have that first bye. So would I rather... I'd nearly rather McKercher than Rosie. I think Rosie against Sydney feels like pretty rough, doesn't it? I literally can't loop through this position. So I think I might go Dawson against Geelong. Feel like he could probably score right there. Let's have a look at his last few against them. 96, 122. So not amazing. Yeah, Rosie's not any better really. So I think we'll go with Dawson there. Take the gamble on that. Even though Rosie's actually been really good since we've got him. What's his 5-rounder? It's probably the best way to look at it. And yeah, 112 5-rounders, so that's pretty good. Last 3 rounds haven't been great, but that's pulled down by that 73. And then, so our loophole plays early this week, so it's actually good to take the Bont VC. Because we can loop Livingston with then Grundy, take the Bont VC if he goes well. And I don't actually mind Sheasel as a captain. Although they have been tagging Richmond, I feel like Sheasel can be at times untaggable. So hopefully Bont goes well enough and I don't have to play that captain. If we look at these other games, not really many feel very good except the Brisbane game. If you had Dunkley, that Brisbane St Kilda game, I'm pretty sure he went pretty ridiculously good against them last time, and they'll probably tag Neil again. I feel like Essendon Fremantle, I think there'll be some big scores there from like one of the mids on either side, but I'm not really sure who, so it's a little bit hard to tell. Port Sydney, like picking Butters or Heaney or Goulden. I feel like Goulden's probably all right, but Heaney, you feel like they're going to put a tag on Butters. And then Heaney, I don't know, he's been a little bit out of sorts, it feels like. Not going huge. Dacos against Carlton definitely feels like a tag coming. Like Melbourne could try tag Bont with Neil Bullen, but I think he's too big and he'll just take him forward and kick goals on him probably, so it's probably not the best. Flanders is actually a consideration, but he's playing the same night, and I just realised that, so I'm going to have to really be on that game. Why have they got double Friday night games? Doesn't make sense. Play a Thursday game. That's pretty frustrating there. But yeah, that's probably what I would be lining up with. I think the Richmond North game's pretty good for a good score from Shees, but we'll see what happens there. I don't really know who else I'd go from my team. We go down Gold Coast, like surely Rowell and Anderson bounce back, but I wouldn't count on that. I feel like Yo could go right if you want a VC there. Because like if I do that, then that's, yeah, it's very hard, right? There's not much to loot. Oh, I can loop, actually, so I can loop through the forward line with Dawson if worse comes to worse, so that's fine. Will Dawson, that is. So that's actually not the worst thing that could happen. So going down, otherwise, Geelong Adelaide, bit of a raffle there, I think, for a good score. Collingwood Carlton, probably the same thing, bit of a raffle for a score. I think like Cripps and Walsh would probably do all right because Collingwood don't necessarily like tag, but it's pretty hard to pick Dacos against them because you know they're going to put some pressure on him. Who did GWS play? Hawthorn. See, that's not great either. Although I think Green's got an all right record, doesn't he, against Hawthorn? Oh, no, it's pretty average, so don't go Green. There was someone he had like who do you have heavy scores on at the start of the year? Season stats. No, it's like Collingwood Northwest. Geez, this is the biggest, like, these first 3 games are ridiculously like blue ball, yeah, because the 132 against Collingwood, like they don't put pressure on anyone. North, same thing. They were horrible at the start of the year, and so were West Coast. Like this was a pretty easy run to start off. Probably shouldn't have been so sold on him. His average has gone from. Did he really hit an average low of like no? Oh, it's because of that 5. Jesus, that is a huge difference in green. So let's have a look then at the teams because there were some AFL teams. Whoops, not the Microsoft teams. AFL teams lineup. So this is a bit all over the place tonight, but I'm trying to get something out of this with it close to the end of the season. So West Coast, some big ins here. McGovern was in last week though, and then was called a late out, so I wouldn't be surprised if it happened again. Although it looks like they need him with Barras injured. He might have been close in a game time decision anyway. Big one here for most people would probably be Sexton back in. So if you're needing it to afford, then he is probably a good one to have. And unless he gets subbed though, but I think Graham actually played quite well last week, so he could potentially be sub. Melbourne Bulldogs unchanged, so not much to talk about there. Melbourne, so Tholstrup, I know he's a pretty popular rookie, but not sure people will be wanting to have him on field. Carlton Mackay back. I'm a little bit scared he's going to be laid out again for some reason, but I think it was more concussion related, even though they say it was a flu. Because they just wanted to cover themselves for playing in the previous week when he got knocked out. Collingwood, DeGoey back in, so it's been a while. McCreary and Frampton back in after 1 week with 3 omissions. Not much real relevance here except for Mackay. Geelong, Adelaide, so Dawson, the big one, back. Nick Murray's actually back, which is good as far as footy goes. And Matt Crouch back as well, so I didn't actually expect him to be back. And big Worrell, so some pretty big ins for the Crows there, I would suggest, with Borlace, Pimmelberg and Cook all omitted. And Jones, personal reason, obviously. Geelong, nothing really that's too big for Supercoach. Dawson, the big one in that one. So North had a bit of fanfare around them. So Wardlaw's out. So if you've got him, that's probably a bit of a niche pick, but some do have him. McKerch is back. So if you were relying on him, probably more last week because I think quite a few players are back that we missed last week. But yeah, he's in. Fisher's missed, so that's a pretty big one to miss. But the rest of North pretty unchanged. Like Shields is just getting old and managed, and the other two with injuries. Big Dusty's back. Surely looking at retirement maybe, or moving on from Richmond. I feel like Richmond are probably going into a little bit of a rebuild phase at the moment. And maybe he's going to be moving. If you had Nank, if he was your pod ruck, well, he's back now after that 1 week miss, so that's good for you. But otherwise, not much Supercoach relevance here either. Poor unchanged after their comeback win against Carlton. Not fully convinced by them, but they're taking on a Sydney Swans that have been a little bit out of form of recent, so could be another big scalp for them on their way to the finals again this year. But not much here. Well, nothing really Supercoach relevant either. Essendon Fremantle. So Ridley injured, and the hip was originally 2 weeks, pushed out to 3 on the latest injury report. That's a big out for a lot of teams who went on him after he came back. Hopefully he could get back a little bit earlier. Probably good for us Nick Martin holders, getting him more entrenched in that back line with Nick Cox coming onto the wing by this naming, but that will stick. I think Martin will probably be pushed up at the field at some point. Nat Fyfe out, extended bench, suspension for him, but as we say, not much else except a Supercoach god of old who I hate, Will Brodie, the guy I went against all year and got absolutely cooked for. Since hasn't played a game, so it really does show how a little bit of luck goes with you in Supercoach. So that's a little annoying. Giants, few ins onto their extended bench, but none of them really relevant this time of year. Hawthorn, same thing. Whether many of these guys get a game will be interesting to see, especially coming off a big win. You think they wouldn't change much, although McGuinness was omitted, but which seems surprising. And with the last game of the week, a bit of a pod that some people went, Mateus Philippou is back in, but the rest of the players are not too much, don't have too much of a say on Supercoach or effect on it anyway. Philippou named in the followers, so that's probably good for those who have him in the forward line. But he does have a pretty hard contest this week coming up against Brisbane. Revel back in on that extended bench. Might get a game with McKenna going out, possibly. But yeah, most of these players, a lot of this stuff now at this time of year really doesn't affect too much. So I think a little bit of early reflection on the team. Probably good to look at what kind of went wrong. So this year, buys definitely need to be restructured for next year. Going that, cheap defender forward Baker probably wasn't the best, although the cover's been all right. I feel like there was a lot of wasted trades, which I kind of had to do being behind at the start. We were able to get, mostly premiums, but Mackay and Baker are really a pretty rough forward line premium. If I had Kerner last week, it's an extra 40 points on top of what I scored, which would have been nice. But instead we are in the position we're in. So we didn't miss out altogether, but still annoying. Hopefully Mackay gets up. Otherwise we're going to be cooked in our forward line, which is also annoying. But so that's going to be an interesting way. I'm not sure even if we can optimize if he misses, because it'll be too late. So a little bit of a worrying wait. I really should probably maybe look at looping Baker in the forward line. Maybe that's what I'll do. Let's because I think that worst case, why is that there? Can I refresh this? Okay, thank you, Supercoach. God damn. All right, I think that as far as things go, it wouldn't be the worst to have Baker there, loop him and see how he goes, because I think Martin's going to probably get a bit of the ball. That way, if Mackay does miss, Richards plays at the same time anyway, but we'll get that loop of Baker, so we can loop. If Baker goes 100 and something, we can loop him anyway, which will be good. And I bet you Mackay will have 130 if Baker goes 100, but that's the game we play, isn't it? All right, well, another rambling. We have looked at the VCs and Cs. At this point, not much you can really do. You just got to go with the flow and hope that the premiums you picked are star. For me, quite a few that are a little bit unders, but that's how starting behind kind of gets you in that position. Pretty happy to be in the top 10,000. Hopefully we can crack 5 before the end of the year, but we'll see how we go. Would need a bit of carnage in the key premiums to be able to get there. So with that, I'll thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking with me. I know, the posting frequency hasn't been that great since, trades have ended and stuff, but that's kind of how it gets to at this point of the year. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.